Hey guys, it's Lucky Ghost here. Today we're going to be going over the solo Magicka Sorcerer build. I have personally used this build to take down solo content, group content, with other people and by myself. It's a fantastic build, it does amazing damage, and it's just really fun and really easy to play. Alright, first up, let's talk about the gear we're going to be wearing. We're going to go ahead and take Ice Heart for the monster set. It's incredibly effective at mitigating damage because of this 5,000 damage shield that we proc every 6 seconds as long as we're doing critical damage. And because of the next set we're going to be using, Mother's Sorrow, we are going to be doing a lot of critical damage, which is going to constantly proc that Ice Heart. It's also going to proc something else we'll talk about later. Just know we will be critting often. The third set that you use is up to you. You can either take Necropotence for increased Magicka, and it synergizes well with having a pet up all the time, which you will with this build. Or, if you have access to it, I highly recommend False Gods. You will need to run Sunspire. It's the Elsewhere trial a couple times to get the 5 pieces, but it is an unbeatable set when it comes to soloing content. Every time you cast an ability, it costs less to cast it with this set. It's also going to give you Magicka back every time you kill something, and it's going to increase your move speed by 30% for 8 seconds when you kill something. So while you're wearing this set, you tend to zip around, you tend to have fantastic sustain and put out amazing damage. It's just an unbeatable solo set. So when you're able to get it, I highly recommend you do. Until then, feel free to use Necropotence, or even if you just want a crafted set, you could take Julianos. For your back bar, when you're able to get it, grab that Maelstrom Staff from the Maelstrom Arena. You can go into normal Maelstrom Arena and get the Maelstrom Staff nowadays, and it's very easy to do. This staff, so long as you cast your Wall of Elements under an enemy, you're going to proc 2 things on the staff. You're going to proc the Enchant up at the top, which is going to increase your spell damage by 452. That's huge. You're also going to proc your light and heavy attacks, the 2-piece bonus down there, dealing an additional 1,353 damage. It's a fantastic item. It's a best in slot item, and you'll see it on a lot of builds for that reason. Until you're able to get your Maelstrom Staff, feel free to back bar another Mother Sorrow Staff, or anything, really. It's not a big deal. You won't be spending a lot of time on your back bar. Next up, let's talk about our skills. The first skill we're going to be taking is Haunting Curse. This ability acts like a delayed time bomb that blows up twice. So it'll blow up after 3.5 seconds and then again after 8.5 seconds, dealing intense damage to all enemies around it. We're going to start battles off by casting this ability. The next ability on our bar is Force Pulls. This is our spammable. We're going to be using this ability when all of our buffs and our dots are ticking. This is a really fun spammable to use because it hits 3 enemies at once as long as they've been afflicted with burning, chilled, or concussed. Well, like I mentioned with the Ice Heart earlier, that's going to constantly be chilling things near us. Our Wall of Fire is constantly burning things, and we're going to constantly be concussing with our lightning damage. Okay, next up we've got Crystal Fragments. The important thing to know about Crystal Fragments is you never do a hard cast of Crystal Fragments. And what that means is you don't cast it with a cast time. You wait until it procs. When it procs, you'll see down there it says casting a Magicka ability has a 35% chance of causing your next Crystal Fragments to be instant, dealing 66% more damage and cost 50% less Magicka. So by waiting until it procs, it hits 66% harder and costs 50% less. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be spamming this ability, right, which costs Magicka, and that'll have a 35% chance to proc this ability, and you'll hear it when it procs. When it procs, you hit this ability right away. That is your number 1 priority, other than keeping yourself alive. Fourth ability, Inner Light. The great thing about Inner Light is, while slotted, it's going to increase your max Magicka, and it's going to give you Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical rating by 2,191. Notice how you don't have to use it. You just have to slot it. So this is what we call a bar buffer. You put it on the bar and you don't touch it. It's great for increasing your damage while simplifying your rotation. So just by this ability existing on your bar, it's making your character a lot stronger. We never use it, we just put it there. The next ability, Summon Twilight Matriarch. You're going to summon your Matriarch and you're going to want to have it up at all times. we take the Twilight Matriarch Morph, which is going to allow it to give you a big heal. If you ever find yourself in a pinch, you can pop this heal and it'll top you right off. For our ultimate, we can use Ice Comet or Greater Storm Atro. Either one of these makes a great front bar ultimate because both of them increase the damage of all of the abilities on the front bar, which is where we're going to be spending most of our time. They increase the damage of these abilities through passives that are at play. Ice Comet, there's Mage's Guild passives at play, and then the Storm Atronach has Sorcerer passives at play. So either one of those is fantastic. If you want to drop another summon that comes down and attacks the enemy with you, Storm Atro is great. If you want to throw a literal comet at an enemy, landing and stunning them while doing some pretty sizable damage, then Ice Comet is a lot of fun. On the back bar, we're going to be using Wall of Elements as discussed. That's going to be doing a lot. That ability procs that back bar weapon of yours, which is going to increase your spell damage. It's going to increase your light and heavy attack damage. It's just a very, very important skill. Not only that, when this ability expires, it explodes. So you cast it, and then after a time, you will notice that it explodes. That explosion actually does quite an incredible amount of damage. And if you're walking up to a group of weak enemies, you can just repeatedly cast it, and it'll do some pretty good damage. So next up, we've got Mystic Orb. This is one of the best AoE abilities in the game. It throws an orb out. This orb hits all of the enemies that are nearby with little tethers and tendrils that, pop out of it. It's just simply one of the best damage dealing abilities in the game, and I highly recommend it for this build. Next, we've got Boundless Storm. So popping Boundless Storm is going to do two very important things for you. One, it's going to give you Major Resolve. Major Resolve is going to greatly increase your physical and spell resistances, which greatly reduces the amount of damage you take when something hits you. So having this active means you are much more likely to stay alive. For that reason, and one more, you can see there's lightning. It's also going to constantly be zapping enemies nearby. That zap doesn't do a ton of damage, but what it does do is there's so many zaps going out. And because of our crit chance, a lot of those zaps are going to be critting the enemy, which means it's going to proc your Ice Heart, and it's also going to proc Crit Surge, our fourth ability on the bar. This ability does two things. It gives you Major Brutality when you use it, increasing your spell damage by 20%. It also heals you for 3,210 health every time you crit, okay? So this ability is constantly zapping and critting, giving you 3,210 health without you casting anything, right? So as long as you're in lightning form and there's enemies nearby, it's going to be critting things and it's going to be healing you while you take damage. Combined, these two skills work really well together. And then of course, the fifth ability, we have the Matriarch again, because if you have it on one bar, you must have it on the other bar. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear when you swap bars. It'll unsummon your Matriarch. Fun thing to know about the Matriarch and pets in general. If you're in town or if you're just annoyed by your pet being in your face and his wings are flapping, you can always press C, open up your character screen, and right-click this. That'll make it disappear instantly. Okay. And then for the back bar ultimate, we're going to go with Fiery Rage. When it comes to AoE ultimates, you just can't beat Fiery Rage. This ability rains down an incredible amount of damage over a good period of time. So anytime you've got a big group of mobs and you just want to melt them all down, cast Fiery Rage. You won't regret it. Okay, next let's talk about race options. This is a Magicka tune, so your race options are pretty standard. You can either go with High Elf or Dark Elf if you want to go for damage. Alternatively, if you want to go for sustain, Breton is fantastic, especially for soloing, especially if you're not going to have false gods. I highly recommend Breton. Breton gives you reduced Magicka cost. It also gives you some spell resistance. Breton is just a really, really good Magicka solo race. As for your passives for this build, I highly recommend grabbing all of your Sorcerer passives. There's going to be tons of passives in here. Be sure to read them. They're going to make you more durable, or they're going to make you do more damage. But essentially, because you're soloing, you do want to be able to do more damage. You want to be able to take more hits, and you want to be able to heal better because you're doing all three things when you solo. So all of these passives are going to be great for you. Next, the Destruction Staff. We're going to take all of these passives, one, because we're using a Destruction Staff on front and back bars, but two, because we're also going to be using 3 Destruction Staff abilities. The Force Pulses are spammable on the front bar. You've got the Wall of Elements on the back bar, and the back bar Old Elemental Rage. Next set of passives that are incredibly important are your armor passives. You're a Magicka toon, so you're going to be wearing at least 5 pieces of light armor. Typically on a Mag toon, you're going to go 5-1-1. What that means is you're wearing 5 pieces of light armor, 1 piece of medium, and 1 piece of heavy, so that you get access to all 5 light armor passives, and then the first 3 medium armor passives, and the first 3 heavy armor passives. Because you're wearing 1 piece of each, you get those passives. And that's also going to tie into the next passive tree, the Undaunted. For each type of armor you wear, you get 2% additional health, stamina, and magicka. Because we're wearing all 3 types of armor, that's 6% total health, stamina, and magicka. So you're going to take Undaunted Metal for solo and group play. And if you ever decide to play with other players, highly recommend you grab Undaunted Command as well. This is going to give you resources back when you take synergies. If you're soloing, this isn't that important because you're not going to be getting access to a lot of synergies. For Mage's Guild, you are going to grab Magicka Controller. Increases your max magicka and magicka recovery by 2% for each Mage's Guild ability slotted. So if we're running Inner Light and Ice Comet, that's 2 abilities, which means we're going to get 4% increased magicka and 4% increased mag recovery. On top of this ability itself giving 4% increased max magicka. So this passive right here combined with this ability, you get some very nice results. And the last set of passives we're going to talk about are your racial passives. Be sure to grab these, all of them. No matter what race you are, what character you make, they're always handy to have. Okay, next up, let's talk about consumables. Because we are using Inner Light, which gives us Major Prophecy, and we're using Critical Surge, which gives us Major Brutality, we can use basic run-of-the-mill Essence of Magicka potions, the ones that fall on the ground, right? Because we're getting the 2 buffs you pay big money for on the Essence of Spell Power potions for free. So by slotting those 2 abilities, we can now use these potions, which cost 9 gold, instead of these potions, which cost 200 a piece. So there you go. Be sure not to use the expensive potions when you're running this build. Next up, let's talk about food. We've got 2 great options for food. The first is Witch Mother's Potent Brew. This is going to increase your max health, your max magicka, and give you magicka recovery. If you're having sustained problems, meaning if you're running out of magicka often, you're going to want to use Witch Mother's Brew. It's a great food and it's very affordable. I think it runs for around 100 gold a piece, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. The next meal is Clockwork Citrus Fillet. This is your really sweaty food. This is you're doing VMA for the first time, or you're doing Vateshran Hallows and you're struggling, but you're close and you want every ounce of help you can get. Well, this food will give that to you. It's going to increase your max health and your max magicka and give you magicka recovery, just like Witch Mother's Brew. But what it's also going to do on top of that is give you 400 health recovery. So you've got a nice constant heal over time ticking on your character when you're running this food. The difference is this one costs 100 gold, this one costs 4,000 gold. So I wouldn't use these unless you're really trying to get every advantage you can to take down something very difficult. All right, now let's demonstrate what it looks like to proc your Crystal Frag. There it goes, it procced. See how the skill's pink? Instant cast. And it just annihilates that direwolf. Alright guys, that concludes this Magicka Sorcerer solo build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed destroying the solo content with this build, and I look forward to hearing how it goes. Be sure to visit eso.justlootit.com for the written build guide of this build, as well as tons of other build guides and more. If you want to hang out with someone else who loves ESO, be sure to swing by my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/LuckyGhostTV. Until the next video, guys, see you next time.